Hey everybody, Nick here, and this morning I got a disassembly video for you of this little guy. This right here is the Buck Marksman by Buck Knives in the US. Really interesting knife, really different, and it's a collaboration with the Hawk brothers, who are really doing some impressive stuff lately. Watching their Instagram feed is like watching a mad scientist work in real time. So of course you'll see a full review, but the interesting thing about this guy is this locking mechanism. It's a flipper, but basically what happens is it's a lot like the Chris Reeve tie lock. It pops up. Oh, still getting the hang of it. There we go. Pops up, and that releases this little tab over here, and then flips on the... And so you got a really interesting thing. And one of the most interesting parts of this knife then is the action when the knife is unlocked. This is the smoothest knife I've handled, maybe except in the Norseman, when it's broken free. But of course it doesn't spend very long in that state. But anyways, I want to take it apart and see how it ticks, and my viewer Hao-Chen, who lent it to me, is kind enough to have let me do that. Okay, so first and foremost, we see a free rotating pivot. It's life. This is a T10 driver here that we're needing to use, so I put the driver over here. This is, by the way, the first disassembly video I'm filming using artificial light. This will be a little time lag for the people seeing the channel regularly, but I've been spending a lot of time working on some lighting setup because the sun is a little bit tyrannous. It's hard for me to film some days when the sun is out. So, anyways, I've gone ahead and taken this out, and things look a little different. That's what you got going on here. Moving it along, I pulled out the pivot screw here. I'm going to go ahead and lock that away just for the moment. And then I'm going to see if I can't pop the scales on this side. And the screws are coming out. Okay, see here? Little tiny bit of Loctite going on. So the screws are coming out a little dirty, so I'll use a little Loctite to put them back in when I pull them out later on. You got a little Loctite there. Come on now. Little Loctite. Yeah, come on. Don't fight me now. Come on. There we go. Alright, now I actually think that that should be everything required to pop this out. Use a Q-tip here. See if I can't pop out the pivot. There we go. Using a Q-tip on the behalf of my buddy Luke, who always complains when I actually just use the driver to push the pivot through because, you know, yeah, he's got a point. It's not the nicest thing to do. Here, and with an anodized black sort of finish like you got on this guy, you can't necessarily be too careful. However, the Q-tip ain't exactly doing the trick here, so I'm going to use this thin driver, which is just going to slide in between the threads and offer a little pressure in that way. Interesting. So I'm going to see if I can't get it from the other side here. I'm not 100% sure why this isn't coming apart as I'm expecting it to. So up here, the back spacer, back spacer is right over here, and it seems like the clip is screwed into the back spacer. Similarly, your back lock here seems to be screwed directly into the back of the knife, into your, there we go, inside there. So right now, this scale should actually be free, and yet it isn't. Part of it could just be because the pivot is stuck in there. I just don't know. So I'm going to try and give this another push out. Maybe I'm just not using enough oomph. There we go. So, gave that a little bit more oomph. That'll pop on out. Lost my 2 washers in there. That's fine. Oh, washers, bearing holders. I am honestly not 100% sure why this scale is not popping off right now. I really just don't get it, because there's nothing that should be adhering these things together. You know? Sorry guys, I'm just a little confused. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is pop the other scale screws off on the other side here. and see if that loosens things up a little bit. Okay. So that's letting the back spacer come apart. Is this an integral? No. Come on, you little bugger. Be free. Be free. Oh. There we go. Sorry, guys. This one ain't making me look so hot. And then again, I never look particularly hot, so... Okay. Now on the back here, I'm just looking at this back strap here. And I'm thinking... It actually looks... I'm trying to decide if that's an Allen key or if it's stripped out. Or a little of each. That's too big. We'll go one smaller here. It is nice to occasionally get flummoxed by a folding knife. Yeah, that's an Allen key. So, all right, I'm just going to take the whole damn thing down. I can see it now. We're probably looking at, 23 minutes for disassembly on this guy. Here we go. Unscrew this. Well, it looks like we're doing a complete tear down here. Wow, that's a long, beefy screw there. Come on. The screw is actually stuck on the tip of the driver here. Really? Is that how we're gonna go? Is that how this is gonna work? All right, let's see if I can hand pull that up. Leave it there for the moment. Okay, and that is absolutely stripped out, so I'm not gonna dick with it. You know what? I'm just gonna retighten this guy. A good key part of doing any of this is knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them. Because, you know, this particular knife is not a knife I've worked with a great deal. It's not a knife I'm super familiar with. And, you know, when I realized that this screw up here is, and already was stripped, I know I got a problem. And I know that it's just not going to be worth it, especially on a loaner, to continue the disassembly past this point. So I'm just going to treat this all as one holistic chunk. The nice thing, though, is that there's not much in there. Basically, what I'm going to have to do is treat the blade reassembly process like it was an integral knife. And I can do that. I can live with that. Not ideal, but it does the trick. So, actually, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start the cleaning process here. Use some rubbing alcohol, as always. I'm just going to hit this back spacer to either side here. Not that it's particularly dirty or that it needs it, but, you know, might as well. Somebody who owns a Marksman here and knows what the heck is going on, please, please, please feel free to let me know what I did wrong, if I did something wrong. Or maybe this particular specimen is a uniquely problematic little beast here. Who knows? But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and pop this back spacer back in there. There we go. Come on now. Beautiful. Oh. Oh, snap. And that's backwards. Perfect. And that's in there. Number one. Oh, you little bugger. I am just not having a great morning in terms of your fine motor skills. But that's okay. Or maybe I'm just flummoxed. I don't know what a flummoxing is, really. But I know it apparently describes me quite well at the moment. So at the moment I'm spinning freely, and that ain't right. Which is making me think something's slightly out of the whack here. Come on. Aha. There we go. The holes were just out of alignment here. There is really a reason why I like to do the complete disassembly, to get it down to two sides, because it just makes it a lot easier to deal with all of these little tiny screws and all these little tiny issues here. There we go. That's in. When you can build the knife up sort of like a sandwich, a bearing sandwich, if you will, everything's just a little nicer, a little easier. And an integral, unless it's really well designed, where you can't really separate the handles, the scales that is usually a not as much of a pleasure. Some knives, though, are pretty fine, like your Spyderco Nirvana was a well-done integral. Okay, so we're just treating this thing here as a chunk, and that's okay. Let's go and clean the blade here. So this blade is interesting, you know, for a couple of reasons, but one of them is the this little hole here, which I'm not 100% sure. Come on now. Not 100% sure I understand. Another reason it's interesting, you can see they've got kind of an internal stop pin that isn't. You can see the stop pin right in here, and this works such that if I install it in the right direction, when the knife is stopped, that stop pin goes into this groove. When the knife is shut, it goes right here, so it kind of works in this little arc here. You see that a lot in knives, but there you go. And let's go ahead and clean out the bearings. There we go. Should be good to go. And clean off the pivot. I'm hoping this goes smoothly, but oh, this could go bad quick. So now here's what I gotta do. Hopefully you can see inside there are these little pockets in here that hold the bearings. And one of those pockets is gonna need to be full of bearing pretty soon here, pretty abruptly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the little needle tip applicator for the nano oil to go ahead and grease those bearing races. I'm going to see if I can show it to you on the camera, but it's going to be tricky. But basically I'm just putting a little bit of the oil up inside each of those bearing races. I can actually see here, although you probably can't, that there is an insert inside there, like a stainless bearing insert, which is nice. And then I'm going to try and drop the bearings in. And that's a beautiful thing if I can get it done right. So I've got one of them inside the little pocket now, and I'm going to see if I hold the knife at a certain angle, whether I can get the second one. Oh, you little bugger. There we go. So I'm going to see if I can coerce that little guy home. There we go. Okay, both of my bearings are in right now, and I'm talking quietly because I don't want them to get shaken loose by anything. What I'm going to do here is go ahead. Forgot to lube the blade. That's something I should have done already. You can see right here, you've got a bearing track. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that with a little bit of lube. Spread it around. Ditto over here. It's not a conventional detent ball to speak of because of the nature of the lock, so that's not really a factor. But anyways, now I'm going to slide the blade into here. So at this point, my bearings are held down, and I'm happy. My life is good. I'm going to go ahead and lube up the pivot here. And I'm going to go ahead and just start dropping it through. And my goal is going to be, there we go. Holy crap, this is actually working. Beautiful. Beautiful. Alright, switching back to my pivot screw now. May need to make some adjustments or tweaks, but so far this is actually going okay. Oh, come on, you little bugger. Don't fight me. I'm gonna try and hit this guy with some Loctite. I'm just using the inside of the cap here to apply a small amount. I need a little bit more than that. There we go. I'm gonna drop that guy in there. Alrighty. Tighten that up. And if I'm going to fully tighten this down, I'm going to need both of my Torx bits here. Ultimately, this knife didn't turn out to be very dirty, or at least in the parts I could get to. It's a shame, really, about the stripped screw up here. That's a little ugly. But anyways, now I can... Oh, wow. That did get smoother, though. Everything looks to be good here. Curious what determines the centering on this knife, because the centering's really good. It's not... Oh, yeah, that's nice. Good detent. This is a really neat knife in terms of the opening closing mechanism. Pretty much a fan in that way. Okay, look, I'm actually oh, I got a little bit of Loctite on there. So I'm actually finished with this knife. Like I said, I'm a little disappointed that I couldn't do the complete disassembly for you guys, but something's going on inside this area here that I don't entirely understand. And so, rather than fighting it on a loner, I figured I'd just play the conservative route. And sometimes, like I said, you know when to hold them, you know when to fold them. And in this case, I wasn't going to make that bet with somebody else's knife. I hope this has been interesting to you. The Marksman is an interesting little knife here. I'm pretty impressed by it just as in its uniqueness. That's kind of neat. So look forward to the full review. It's going to be coming up on your Saturday here. And hope this has been interesting for you. And still working on the filming, but everything looks pretty good. And have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day.